Sun and my teammates are Hạnh and Ling. We are from Group 1 and today is our pleasure to present our first topic of this subject, measuring a nation's income. So in this presentation, we will help you to have an overview of Vietnam's GDP as well as the GDP situation around the world during COVID-19 pandemic. So this presentation will be divided into three main parts. The first one is the Vietnam's GDP through history. The second one is GDP around the world during COVID-19 pandemic. And finally is some suggestions. This should be last for about 15 minutes. And if anyone of you has questions, please feel free to ask us after this presentation. Okay, now let's start with the first section, the overall information about GDP through history. So because GDP is relevant a lot to the economy situation, so I think it would be better if we know the big picture of the economy in two main periods, before and after the đổi mới renovation, so that we can know why the GDP has changed. So before đổi mới, especially in more than 10 years of building socialism on national scale, like from 1975 to 1986, the economy associated with agriculture identity was severely devastated by the war, and the development of model associated with the central planning mechanism has major shortcomings in addressing development tasks, especially in the economic field. And here are some of the main characteristics of this period. The first one is the relationship between the state and the economic units was the allocation and delivery on the basis of which products were delivered to people. So therefore the market was not recognized and the state, instead of the market, decided the whole production process. The state held monopoly of foreign trade, of doing business with foreigners and the properties gained from the foreign trade. The distribution of income was based on the principle of egalitarianism, which is a school of thought within political philosophy that prioritized the equality for all people. So because of that situation, according to Professor Trần Văn Thọ, an economic advisor, Vietnam's gross domestic product in 10 years before renovation increased by 35% during which time the population increased like 22%. So thus the GDP per capita increases by only approximately like 1%. While the East Asian economy entered the stage of strong development, Vietnam's economy almost like stood still during 10 years before renovation. So realizing this bad situation, the 6th Congress of Communist Party of Vietnam in December 1986 officially initiated an innovation career called đổi mới, thereby laying out the comprehensive renovation path of country and help the economy to recover. So about this situation. So first, the economic thinking was renovated. The state accepts the existence of equality and the legality of many economic sectors, which is called the multi-sector economy. And secondly, the economic mechanism is a social market economy which focuses on the market but also have the control of the state. It's like a mix between the state-planned economy and the market economy, which is controlled by the supply and demand. So this social market economy promotes the optimum in allocating the social resources to maximize the profits through competition. On the other hand, the state's management helps to avoid the market failures. And socialist orientation still the leading role of our economy. And also the economy has shifted from closed to open and integrated with the world. And with all those renovations, Vietnam's economy was recovering and the GDP has continually growing through years. And here is some statistics about the nominal GDP, which is the GDP at current prices, and the real GDP. As you can see here, the number raised every year. And on average, in 2010 to 2017 period, the GDP increased like 25.4% per year. And to sum up these statistics, as you can see in this timeline, the average annual growth rate of Vietnam's GDP at current prices always a positive number, around like 7 to 8%. And until last year, the GDP increased by 7.02%. And to help you understand more about the position of Vietnam's GDP compared to the other countries, This is a graph shows that the real GDP growth of Vietnam is still above the average among the Asian nations. So, however, it is still have the GDP per capita less than Asian average. So this indicated that Vietnam has one of the fast growing GDP value, but it still needs to develop a lot to catch up with the developed countries. And this is another graph showing that our growth trend of Vietnam's real GDP is relatively stable around like approximately 6%, and are likely to have a positive growth like that in the future. So overall, Vietnam's GDP is having a positive trend throughout the history. And this is all I want to talk about this part, and next link will help you to have a deeper understanding about how Vietnam computes its GDP.
Hi everyone, I'm Ling and now I will introduce to you the way Vietnam calculates GDP. And as you know, we have learned how to calculate GDP in macroeconomics, and however, that is not the only way to calculate GDP. Actually, we have three ways to calculating it. And the first is the way we learn, it's called expenditure method. The second way is income method, and the third way is production method, and you also can call value added method. As you can see, there are the formula and meaning of the factor. It seems quite complicated, right? And moreover, in fact, we do not just apply a calculation, but have to combine them together. And in theory, they should lead to the same result. However, due to estimation errors and minor inaccuracies that will hardly ever be the case in reality, and the difference between the GDP calculated by the expenditure method and the production method prescribed by United Nations Statistics Office is an error of not more than 6%. And this is the situation of Vietnam. And as you can see, the graph shows the growth of GDP over the 2006 to 2050. The red line represents the growth of GDP, which is calculated by expenditure methods, and the blue line shows the growth of GDP by production methods. And now I will present in detail the way Vietnam calculates GDP. Vietnam also uses three approaches to calculate GDP. However, the factors in a formula are quite different from the general formula that I showed you before. In this presentation, because there is not enough time, the formula I present are calculated according to current price. There is another way of using comparative price to indirectly calculate GDP that you can find out for yourself. And in Vietnam, about the production methods, the calculations were different in two periods, before and after 2012. And this difference were mainly in price that the GVA is calculated. And in addition, the system, the year and the EC coefficient. The conversion from producer price to basic price when calculate the GVA does not change the scale and growth rate of GDP, but change the scale and growth rate of VA of economic sector. In Vietnam, GDP is calculated by production methods and expenditure methods on a quarterly and yearly periods, and GDP by income method is calculated and are published every 5 years when collecting information to create an interdisciplinary balance sheet for the whole economy. Due to the availability of data sources, the production method is often used first and officially, and is used to adjust GDP data calculated by expenditure methods. And because of many reasons, in any country there are always problems that need re-evaluated GDP both in short and long term, and Vietnam is not an exception. On the other hand, because the source of input information for the compilation and calculation of GDP is incomplete, and it needs to be updated, and thus the re-evaluation is an objective and self-sufficient requirement of Vietnam and completely in line with international. The most important purpose is to provide a complete and accurate picture of GDP scale that is the input from macroeconomic research, the comparison, the administration, and decision making. After re-evaluation, the main results are more positive GDP data and more general view of the movement between sectors in GDP structure. And now I will move to the underground economy in Vietnam. In Vietnam, the underground economy is composed of five components, as you can see in the slide. And as I mentioned before, GDP in Vietnam does not include underground economic activity. And but according to the General Statistics Office, the size of the underground economy is estimated at nearly 27% of GDP. This data is in 2015. And because the impact of underground economy can range from harmful to helpful, so there are still many opinions about whether the underground economy should be included in GDP or not. However, in 2019, the minister approved that we need to research the underground economy because they expect it will help state management agency take appropriate decision, and it can reduce the proportion of informal economic activity. Is the end of my part, so my panel will continue our presentation.
Hello everyone, I'm Hạnh. To continue Miss Linh, I will provide some suggestions for underground economy in Vietnam. Here are some suggestions I have found. Firstly, research and evaluate precisely and generally underground economy based on five activities of three main sectors. Secondly, developing and promulgating a system of statistical indicator of sources of information on measurement. The next one is continue to renovate and improve statistical specialized along with enhance the cooperation nationally and internationally of statistics to update measurement method. In the next part, I will talk about GDP around the world during COVID-19. It is obvious that we are facing a pandemic which has threatened not only the movement of people but also on the range of economic activity. The pandemic is disrupting global supply chains and international trade with more than 100 countries around the world are affected. From UN, the ESA has estimated that in the worst case scenario, the world economy could contract by 0.9% in 2020, as you can see in the figure 1. COVID-19 is having a major impact on both Chinese and global economy. The most negative effects of COVID-19 are being felt in China, the epicenter of virus. More than 80,000 people in China have been infected. Economic growth in China in 2020 is expected to amount to 2.4%, much lower than the 5.7% forecasted at the end of 2019. When comparing with SARS in 2002 to COVID-19 in 2020, the country economy is growing much more slowly now. GDP growth has risen recently about 6% according to the government compared with 10% in 2002. The banking system is far more fragile and laden with debt. Meanwhile, in Vietnam, it's undeniable that we also influenced significantly by this pandemic, but you can see the status of GDP in the first quarter of 2020 isn't too negative when we still witness more increasing in different segments. Moreover, according to the latest report of ADB announced on March 6, Vietnam is forecast to sustain a damage of around 0.41% of GDP, much better than other developing economies. The COVID-19 has spread to European countries, and Italy has the fastest increasing cases in Europe, averaged more than 3,000 cases per day. Confidential noted that if acute phase of the health emergency ends in May 2020 and the production resumes gradually between the end of April and at the end of June, estimating that GDP in Italy will fall by 10% in the first two quarters compared to the end of 2019. On average for 2020, GDP will drop 6%. Here are the two diagrams forecast the Italy GDP in 2020. The trend seems to be downward. Europe also has faced with a huge impact on economy by this pandemic. The direct impact through all channels is estimated to reduce real GDP growth in 2020 by 2.5 percentage points compared to a situation where no pandemic, the EU Commission says. Given that real GDP growth was forecast to be 1.4% for the EU in 2020. This would imply it could be for just over negative 1% of GDP in 2020. We know that in the US, economy in the US is powerful, right? However, it seems like the US have been overconfident and ignored the danger of this pandemic. On March 26, the US has taken the leading place of having the most COVID-19 cases. According to Goldman Sachs, the US GDP is estimated to decline by 24% in the second quarter of 2020 due to coronavirus pandemic. This hit will lower US GDP by as much as 10% in April, and the full year's growth is expected to be negative 3.8%. I'm sure that no one likes this pandemic to extend more. The longer it stays, the more suffer our country has to face with. In the last part, I want to provide briefly some suggestions for Vietnam in COVID-19 pandemic besides implementing resolution from our government. Firstly, enforcing support for business, financial tax credit policy. Secondly, manage import source and enhance export source. Thirdly, enhance support for labor and employment. And finally, the media have to provide official and reliable information. Let's bring us to the end of our presentation. I hope our presentation has helped you to have an overview about Vietnam's GDP, how to compare it, the situation around the world during COVID-19 pandemic, and some suggestions. Thank you for your listening.